People say, oh, Lance, I don't know, you sound like a Christian nationalist. Yes, I am a Christian nationalist.
We want souls and we want nations.
That's Lance Wallnau, a self-proclaimed Christian nationalist who hosted an Evangelical Get Out the Vote event that featured a very specific guest, J.D. Vance.
These United States, we're the ones who need it worst.
Wallnau has been around for decades, and he's part of this shadowy religious movement called the New Apostolic Reformation. And one of the core beliefs of this movement is that Christians are called to take dominion over the government.
This kind of government, this kind of Supreme Court you're talking about, can create the skeletal structure for an awakening that can retake territory we've lost for 2 decades.
We want souls and we want nations. Jesus was promised nations for his inheritance, not just churches.
Now, another important belief to know is that they believe God speaks to certain people, often in dreams and conveniently often about politics.
I distinctly heard, and I'm not one of those people that's always hearing God's voice, so it stuck out to me. I heard the Lord say, Isaiah 45 will be the 45th president. God's bringing in a heathen ruler with his anointing who doesn't yet know him.
Which could explain Wallnau's recent political revival in 2016, when he became one of the first evangelical influencers to come out for Trump and go hard for him.
I had the strangest sense that I was dealing with something different. I was dealing with someone who wasn't an evangelical Christian, who was anointed.
And now he's hitting 2024 with a big dose of, I don't really know what to call this.
She represents something which I believe is probably the amalgam of the spirit of Jezebel, and in a way that'll be even more ominous than Hillary, because she'll bring a racial component and she's younger.
And as this event shows, it's yet another sign of how the Trump campaign is willing to work very closely with people who believe that Christians should rule the country. Now, certain Christians have been playing the game of extremism since the religion's inception. But what's new to this modern moment is that this type of Christian extremism no longer exists in the fringes and the dog whistles. It's an out-in-the-open attempt to install explicitly Christian leadership into the White House, into the courts, and into all branches of the government. And J.D. Vance has become central to that. As my colleague Kira Butler has reported, J.D. Vance exists in this tangled web of Christian influencers, investors, and activists who are pushing the country to their liking.
So the Theobros are a group of mostly millennial Christian pastors and influencers.
Vance continuing to fraternize with these nationalist characters like Wallnau, and Trump's continued inclusion of his spiritual advisor, Paula White, who is also a member of the New Apostolic Reformation.
When I walk on White House grounds, God walks on White House grounds.
To say no to President Trump would be saying no to God.
It's clear that actual Christian nationalism is their platform. And if put in the White House, it's their vision of Jesus-centered politics above all else.
Life's biggest questions, the questions that really matter, are questions that are best answered by the Christian faith.